IoT is undoubtedly the labyrinth circumscribing the entire world today, with its diversified opportunities facilitating almost every sector in almost every nook and corner of the globe. After a decade dedicated to IoT development, the industry has just begun to gain momentum. While, on one hand, implementing IoT in core business environment has the potential to increase the productivity manifold, on the flip side, it could result in upheaval and chaos throughout the value chain. The panel will discuss the forthcoming synergies in the sector as well as the impediments in its full-scale implementation. It's in this spirit we'd like to introduce the topic for our first panel discussion, IoT Labyrinth, graduating from adoption to value creation. I would like to inform the audience that there is going to be cognizance, a quiz competition immediately after this panel discussion, which would be based on the discussion insights and deliberation made in the PD. So, the more vigilant you are, the higher are your chances of winning a gift hamper. I would also like to remind the gathering that the entire seminar is being webcast live on estv.in/Communiqué18.
To moderate and channelize the flow of the discussion, may I now invite on stage Mr. Philip Varugis. Mr. Philip Varugis is a serial entrepreneur and data science leader. Prior to his current role, he was the co-founder and CEO of Datum Informatics Private Limited, a big data analytics firm with deep focus into contextual intelligence using artificial intelligence and machine learning on unstructured data. Mr. Varugis brings around 15 years of rich and extensive cross-functional experience with an expertise in the IT domain. He has been invited to deliver keynote address on big data, analytics, digital transformation, and cyber intelligence in various national and international conferences and leading academia. Mr. Varugis has handled key business management roles with IBM, CSS Corporation, Chimera Technologies, Seven Sense Technologies, and Socratic Learning Incorporated at domestic and international level. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
May I now request Mr. Amit Korekar to join the panel on stage. Mr. Korekar is currently serving as Senior Technology Manager at Procter & Gamble and has over 15 years of diverse work experience. In his present role, he is responsible for enabling smart manufacturing, Industry 4.0 using AI and analytics at P&G. Mr. Korekar has completed his master's in engineering from BITS Pilani and is a certified Six Sigma Green Belt. He has a unique background in manufacturing, product design, data science, simulation, and analytics. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
Joining us next on stage is Mr. Ravinder Pal Singh. Mr. Ravinder Pal Singh is a senior industry consultant and evangelist in digital transformation, IoT, and smart connected economies. He has more than 21 years of experience in business and technology consulting, enterprise architecture, and solutions, mainly in the areas of industry vertical solutions, data center collaboration, and network technology solution. A certified project manager, PMP, ITIL, and TOGAF, service management based on ITIL framework, lead certification, and quality processes improvement areas based on Six Sigma and DMAC foundations. Mr. Singh is a known thought leader on smart cities, IoT, and digital transformation. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
May I now request Mr. Jayant Kola to kindly join the panel. Mr. Kola has over 17 years of experience, technology, product marketing, research and strategy, consulting in the telecom, internet, and emerging technologies domain. He is currently a partner with Convergence Catalyst, where he has showcased his hands-on experience and domain expertise to advise various companies to align themselves with the ever-changing technology and market trends. Mr. Kola is an advisory board member of India's first and only artificial intelligence AI-based asset fund, co-team member of a global AI think tank, advisor for a North American AI platform company, and founding member of India IoT Forum. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
Joining us next on stage is Mr. Ashish Khare. Mr. Khare is General Manager and Global Head for IoT and Smart City Practice IoT for Wipro Limited. His role includes consulting, solution engineering, integration, and service management to create business value for customers across different verticals like utilities, manufacturing, logistics, and transportation. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir. Joining the panel next is Mr. Syam Madanapalli. Mr. Madanapalli is presently associated with NTT Data Services and leads the IoT delivery and SME operations. He has achieved many firsts in the fields of IoT, including leading the team that builds world's first IPv6 ready logo certified TCP IPv6 stack, developing the first IoT standard from India for global use, IEEE P1931, and many more. Mr. Madanapalli has co-authored a book on all IP networks, filed for 22 patents, written 8 RFCs at IETF, and contributed to various standards at IEEE and other standard development organizations. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
May I now request Mr. Aditya Basu to please join the panel on stage. Mr. Basu is presently Strategic Consultant, CEO Office, Born Group. He is a former Vice Chair, TSDSI, TEC, and was responsible for advising Government of India on intelligent transport and smart home solutions, holding responsibilities like formulating and eliciting technical reports on international forums like ETSI and 1M2M. Currently, he is in the Corporate Strategy Unit advising CEO on digital and growth initiatives. Also responsible for scaling the consulting function globally, Mr. Basu has authored multiple white papers and articles on IoT published on national and international forums. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir.
Joining us next on the panel is Mr. Saurabh Srivastav. With 25 years of experience in telecom industry, Mr. Srivastav had the opportunity to witness the evolution of internet in India while working with telecom giant Tata Communications. He is presently the AVP with Reliance Jio and is actively involved in various initiatives like network automation, SDN, NFV, IoT, and 5G strategies. He has bachelor and master's degree in telecom engineering from Birla Institute of Technology and MBA in telecom management from Coventry University, UK. He is an active member, IEEE, British Chevening Scholar, and an IETF Fellow. Welcome to Communiqué 18, sir. May I now request the moderator, Mr. Philip Varugis, to please initiate the discussion.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. After having an electrifying, series of sessions, I know that most of the data points and interesting facts are already been covered. Still, we have some eminent panelists here. We will try to enrich the session by sharing our knowledge and then, our thought leadership with you. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Symbiosis for having this wonderful event organized in the series of years here. Congratulate all the team members behind this. So in the era of digital universe, we are living in a world of connected intelligence and intelligence on the cloud, right? And IoT plays a major role in this connected intelligence and intelligence on the cloud, and which is slowly moving to a digital human world, right? And we are already seeing examples of digital humans in the form of Sophia, right? I hope you've seen Sophia in Saudi, who is getting a citizenship, right? Quite strange but real, right? And that is the world we are going to get into. And I request the panel to really share their knowledge and wisdom in how IoT is going to make an impact to the world of digital universe, right? So we will try to uncover certain facts, figures, and thoughts, especially the opportunities, benefits, and as well as the challenges we are going to have in the IoT era. And we'll try to touch upon the value creation, the trends, the risk, the challenges, the opportunities out there which is going to be created by this IoT era, right? Just to start off with setting some context, we already seen some facts and figures about the IoT impact. Today, we are producing about 2.3 trillion GB of data every day, right? And I have the sources, but I don't have a slide here to show the sources here. But as per the research, it shows that by 2020, the 2.3 trillion GB of the data what we produced will become 44 trillion GB of the data per day, right? And IoT is going to contribute a major significant volume of data to that number, right? And the interesting part here is that less than 37% of the data is available in the form to really analyze and take a decision. And the most interesting part, today, we are about 0.47% of the data in the form of, usable to analyze it. We are having 99.5% of the data which is available there but not being analyzed, right? Where IoT is contributing a major significant quantum to it. And that's the opportunity, right? There are significant challenges. There are significant opportunities as well. I would request Jayan to share some of the trends which are happening in the IoT area, which we already seen, but he has significant experience in the IoT area, which he can share some knowledge on that spectrum. Yeah.
Thanks, Philip. Hi, guys. So I'm an industry observer. I'm an analyst. I look at macro and micro trends, and we've been closely looking at IoT for quite a while now. And I'm going to talk about some of the macro and micro trends that we've been witnessing and what we expect going forward in the IoT space, right? If you look at it, Internet of Things is the true blue convergence technology or the era, right? By that, what I mean is, all other technologies are going to, converge onto this platform. Hardware, software, connectivity, data analytics, okay, cloud computing, fog computing, edge computing, security, everything will, in the IoT era, are going to, play a very integral role to provide a seamless connectivity IoT solution and value prop that the IoT era is going to promise. So that way, IoT is a true blue convergence technology, right? And then that's one big macro trend. And another macro trend is, we had 3 key generations or eras, right? I mean, we had PC era, we had smartphone, or what Steve Jobs called a post-PC era, okay? And then IoT is going to be the post-PC era, right? If you look at what are the different kinds of platforms or innovations that drove these 3 eras, in the PC era, it was primarily hardware platforms, right? I mean, microprocessors, your storage devices, your memory management, okay? The innovation on all these, Moore's law played a huge role in evolution of PC era. What drove the post-PC era or the smartphone era, right? It's the software platforms, your iOS, your Android, your services, your apps. Okay, these define the innovation and growth and scalability of the post-PC era. In the post-PC era, okay, the platforms that are going to, drive the IoT era are data synthesis platforms. Now, take a while to understand or digest what data synthesis platforms are. These are platforms which have the ability to collate data from multiple devices in multiple formats, okay, analyze them in real time and take actionable insights and initiate action. Okay, all these to be done on a single platform. Okay, these platforms are the ones that are going to drive the innovation and scalability in the IoT era. And the entire world, big and small companies are working on coming up with these platforms. So these are a few macro trends, and these are where the opportunities are for you guys, for the industry, for people getting into the industry, right? Now look at the micro trends. Now, IoT was a big buzzword, 3-4 years back. If you look at 2015 Gartner hype cycle, it was right at the peak of the Gartner hype cycle. Everyone was talking about it. All the big companies had IoT functions. Okay, but in the last 2-3 years, it sort of lost its sheen. If you guys have been watching closely, okay, and there are, I have 4 minutes, so I'll talk about 4 key micro trends. Okay, of why we are where we are at right now in terms of IoT evolution cycle. The 4 trends that I want to talk about are investment, standards, security, and hardware, the US-China dynamics. Okay? Number 1, investment. Okay? Within IoT, if you look at it, starting 2015, most of the investments have moving to industrial IoT, industrial IoT startups or industrial IoT projects and solutions, and not as much in the consumer IoT solutions. When we started India IoT Forum in 2014, we had 84 IoT startups. Right now, that number is 1,200 plus. Most of them are consumer IoT. If you look at the quality and the type of innovative applications that are coming out, they are coming out of consumer IoT. But the investments are going for industrial IoT startups because of predictable return on investments there. Okay, so that's one of the micro trend. The second micro trend is standards, right? There are about 14 industry consortiums, but only 3 that matter. Google's Thread, Qualcomm's AllJoin, and GE's Industrial IoT Forum, which have gotten together to put together the standards. The IoT standards were supposed to come out in 2016, but we're in the second half of 2018, and we still don't have standards, right? So the delay in standards is what is actually, delaying the evolution of IoT and delivering on the promise. Third is security. So I'm going to throw a date at you guys. Tell me if you guys know what the significance of that date is. October 21st, 2016. Anyone knows what happened that day? Remembers what happened that day? Sorry? Yeah, the DIN attack, right? The DDoS attack on the DIN servers. The entire East Coast and a part of Central America's, internet went down. All the big internet companies like Twitter, Netflix, they all went down because the company that holds their, hosts their servers called DIN, it was attacked by a DDoS attack, right? And when the postmortem has been done, it was seen that, all the connected hubs and CCTV cameras were used to send the, used for this DDoS attack, okay, at a 1.6 Gbps speed, right? And that's where the world understood or realized that security in IoT is a big issue. Everyone knew about it theoretically, but this particular attack proved it, okay? And no one puts their neck on the line, but we see that since then, the IoT evolution or the investment or the focus on IoT by the industry has gone down. The fourth is hardware, and there are US-China dynamics to this, okay? IoT, is as much a hardware-centric solution as much as it is a software and data analytics database, right? And if you look at what's been happening in trends-wise, all the US companies have been defocusing on hardware. Google stopped its Project Ara, Google Glass project, okay? All the, young funded promising startups like Scully, like Jawbone, they don't exist anymore. On the other hand, China has become the hardware bowl of the world. I mean, you can buy sensors literally in terms of kilos and pounds in China, right? DJI is probably the world's biggest IoT company, okay? And then US started focusing a lot on AI evolution. So the US-China dynamics and US defocus and the VC investments coming emanating from US, okay, led to a little bit of defocus and slowdown in the IoT space. So these are the 4 microtrends that I want to talk about.
Thank you, Jayant. I think you brought the point of how IoT is playing in the industrial area, right?
Right.
So there is a clear convergence of operational technology and information technology. So we call it as IT-OT convergence. So I think, so Amit, if you can show your, experience on how IoT is playing in the industrial IoT area, that would be great.
Sure. Thank you. Friends, Jayant opened it up really nicely. Philip gave an overview. I just want to take a step back. How many of you think AI is playing a role in your day-to-day life? Just raise your hand. Fantastic. So I'm sitting in between latest and aware audience. Thank you very much. Now, what is going to happen when we say IoT? IoT is really extremely broad term, Internet of Things, connected devices, everything. And how many sectors are there? So one of the biggest sector today is industrial IoT. Application of IoT devices or IoT sensors in an industrial environment is called industrial IoT. There is another one which is smart manufacturing. There is another one which is healthcare. And there are so many others. But these are predominantly one of the few of the biggest sectors in which growth is happening, investment is happening. As Jan pointed out, industrial IoT is one of the biggest sector where there is a lot of VC investment is happening. So growth is coming. Now, on this convergence era, when the companies are thinking about industrial IoT or IoT platform, when they want to integrate a manufacturing system and IT system together, industrial IoT platform plays a significant role. In past 20 to 25 years, that's been one of the area wherein most of the industry has been struggling. So if you ask me, is industrial IoT new? No, it's not new. We have been acquiring data from sensors from several years. But what has changed in past few years is the data or the infrastructure and the technology, it has evolved so much. Now we have an ability to acquire gigs and gigs of data, store it, process it with AI and machine learning, and get those insights together. So this is what has changed and enabled industrial and manufacturing sector to move forward. Now, if you ask me like what's happening in manufacturing world, so just to give you stats, about 60 to 70% of the companies are actually doing a pilot in industrial IoT. So meaning like they are getting the data from their manufacturing equipments, trying to understand those data points and improve the performance of those equipments. From there, they are making those insights, making those informed decisions in terms of optimizing the performance of the equipment, optimizing the manufacturing lines. That's what is happening in industrial sector. Now, what are the opportunities? So broadly, like if I would say, there are opportunities for big platform companies. So if you think about in the industrial area, there is GE Predix, there is ThingWorks, and there are several others. But basically, there are big platform companies who are taking one role. There are small niche players wherein they are focusing on one specific area, and those are startups. They are doing exceptionally well by solving a particular problem for an industry. There are consulting companies. So majority of the companies, small and medium enterprises, they need experts like you to think strategically and think about how to solve a particular problem. Think about what should be their industrial IoT strategy, how they should go for Industry 4.0 projects in their company. So opportunities for consulting. There are service-based company which has been one of the significant starting point for India as like industry. So NASSCOM has predicted the opportunity by 2020 is going to be like $15 billion across in IoT sector. So there is huge and enough opportunity for service-based company because platform companies are going to need integrators and execution expert who will drive those projects. Right? So this is all the opportunity across the domains and the companies. Now, what's in it for you? Industry is looking forward to you, experts like you, to go and think beyond data acquisition. Like if I divide the phases, it's data acquisition, analyzing or visualizing, then solving some particular problem and then transforming. So using data science, machine learning, AI to solve those particular problems. So industry is looking forward for you as a data scientist, as data engineer, or solution architect to take that data, convert it into insight, and drive that action. As Mr. Venkateshwaran pointed out in his theme, Internet of People. Now take a story. I'll just give a short story. If you are on a vacation, your phone is with you, your network knows where are you. So how about getting those insights when you are traveling to Singapore, hey, by the way, you might want to go to this shopping mall, and this is an offer which is running over there if you are shopping, a shopaholic person, right? Or getting those presence or location-related insights. So that's location-aware services. Another theme which I want to leave today is think about how this service model of platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and can one of you bring up insights as a service? So think about it, and let's continue the discussion.
Thank you, Amit, for sharing your experience and thoughts on the industry, how IoT is being deployed. We already seen one very interesting example how IoT is delivering value through the examples shared on the Airbus, right? So the whole investment on a solution to just defrost ice on the plane's wing is just the ROI is in 30 minutes you receive it, right? So that's the kind of power it can deliver. On the other hand side, we are seeing this across industries, right? I hope you might have seen the Amazon Go video, right? It's completely, an excellent application of IoT, which is in convergence with AI, computer vision, image recognition, video analytics, etc. But IoT plays a major role in the Amazon Go, right? There are multiple ways how businesses are realizing value. One more example I would like to share, and we will take more inputs from Aditya as well. So in an oil and gas industry, right? Sir already mentioned if there is a leakage in one of the pipes, right? For 10 minutes, if the oil and gas, if the oil mining is getting stopped for 10 minutes, $1.7 million is the operational revenue loss. So how do IoT can play a role in detecting leakage from the pipes, right, which are mining the oil, right? So there are hundreds of examples we can quote how IoT can leverage value, but I would like to, Aditya to share his, thoughts on this.
Thanks, Phillips. Good afternoon, guys. So whenever I'll try to decode this term called IoT Labyrinth, right? What is value? And on my experience of consulting CXOs on how to monetize the data, one thing is very clear. You need to simplify things, right? And how do you simplify it? When I say the definition of value is a synergy between the need and the differentiation. The need is the customer need and the industry or the technology need. And the differentiation is all about what is the differentiation you are bringing in as a company, as an industry, right? Who do we create value for? To simplify it, it's either for the shareholders of the company or our customers. The shareholders of a company through top-line revenue, enhancing product services, or knowing the customers well enough, their need, their aspirations, their motivations, their behavioral factors, right? If I have to decode the value creation of IoT, I'll use 3 simple terms and I'll unpack them into more complex one. And these are integration first. The second one is the automation. And the third one is the analytics, what we do upon it, right? Let's decode the integration part of it, right? There's a lot of data which is coming in from myriad source of information. How well do you capture these data? That means, are you placing the right sensors at the right destination to capture the data? That's the first question. The second question is, what are the communication protocols and the frequency you are using to communicate? The third is how you are collecting the myriad of data, right? So data could be video data, geolocation data, geospatial data, right? How do you store and differentiate that data? And the fourth and most important and challenging perspective right now in the integration is how do you integrate the data from different sources? So smart home data, automotive data, data from social media, how do you contextualize that? Because that's where the value is. That's where the storytelling is. Because if you want to get money from a consumer, you need to tell a story about it. It's not about the data. It's not about your car gonna falter in 1 week. It's all about that you're going on a big trip, your car sensors is saying that the air pump is low or the sensor A is alerting you and contextualizing that data, right? So integration becomes a very huge task, and that's where the data virtualization has come up, right? So it's the technology where we combine the heterogeneous data into a centralized location. So technologies like this are coming up. The second important factor is automation. The very important question, once we have the data, is what is the right place and right time to collect that data? And yes, I'm talking about edge computing. As rightly said, edge computing is becoming more and more popular because there are two important factors in any use case. I'll talk more about use case because technology is one part of it, but when you're going to monetize that technology, it has to be use case centric, right? So very important aspect. So I'll just give you a number. I mean, one of our engagement we did with McKinsey, I was in McKinsey and it was for one of the biggest retailer in US. It was on edge computing, a cost-benefit analysis. What we did was, on the basis of latency and the real-time analytics, we calculated the amount of cost saving that major retailer will have across California, Nevada, and Texas region. Could you guess the number? It was $35K US per year. And that's just one number which says the amount of bottom line impact IoT can have if you integrate the sensors, analytics, and the last part is streaming in the existing processes of an organization, right? The third part, and the most important part, is the analytics. As rightly said by Mr. Philip, in 2014, there was only 0.45% of data which could be analyzed. And today, we are less than 1% of data which could be analyzed. So we have moved from Internet of Things to Internet of Data. And it's all about how do we analyze, how do we perform analytics on top of it, and then contextualize it according to our retail, because data models and analytics will give you a binary 0 or 1. That 0 means completely different for a retail organization and completely different for a telecom organization. And then streamline the whole process, right? So this is where the value comes in. How the industry landscape is moving from a product-based to a service-based industry is where the business model changing is happening, right? So earlier, it was a one-off revenue which was coming in from selling a product. Let's say the LGs and the Samsungs of the world would be selling you the TVs and the fridges, and that's all about it. With the coming up of IoT, that model is changing, and that's where the business model needs to change, right? Now they are selling the products as a baseline, and they are selling the services as a subscription services. Because, as Rajan sir rightly said, 20 years ago, if you would have said that a product and a service marketplace would be $1 trillion evaluation, I would have loved. 20 years from now, a product marketplace will shift to a data marketplace. It's all about how much information you are getting back from the consumer, and then contextualizing it. So this was about the value creation chain of IoT, and later I can go on certain use cases also.
Thank you, Aditya, for throwing some light on the value creation. But definitely, after value creation, how do we monetize this, right? So that is extremely important part of the business to see the ROI from the IoT investment. I would request Ravinder to share some light on that. How do we really monetize this IoT opportunities?
Yeah, thanks, and good afternoon, everybody. So one part of my job involves, and that should be something which might interest you, is to look at the technology challenges, what we face today in the market, the problems what people face, and then work with very innovative minds to come out with solutions. And we run certain startup challenges, and we create those incubation. But let me tell you where this comes from. So IoT in its raw format has been there for many, many years. Connecting things has been there, and it has generated some value, definitely. But we all know that until we have real hard cash dollars come out from these innovations, they don't go a long way. Many of them get killed at infancy or post-infancy stages. So time has come when we are looking beyond this, and that's where we actually coined a new word for IoT. We don't call it IoT anymore. We actually put IoT, artificial intelligence, and edge computing in a framework to create what I call IQT, Intelligent Quotient of Things. Basically, we are trying to connect the things and also make them intelligent so they can have value which can turn into revenue generating streams. And I will give you two examples. There are n number, but in my 5 minutes, I'll give you two examples from two different industries to show you hard cash revenue monetization, what IoT can play. Number one, all of us, most of us, I'm sure, most of the students here are very wary of their health, and we wear those wearables, bands, Fitbits of the world, watches and all, right? Many of you. Now, why do we wear it? Because we want to see the data every evening before I go to sleep, how much I walked today, how many calories I burned, right? Does it give you any revenue value? As an individual, no, but it gives you what I call a self-gratification, that I'm doing good for my health. Now let me tell you what we are doing on top of this. Since most people have this, and we can give them this, and this collects vital parameters around the clock. What we are now looking is going and talking to companies where employees or people work in very hard stress environments. One example, CRPF, who works in Naxalite areas on one side and areas like Kashmir where they face stone pelters on a daily basis. And many a times they reach a stage where that stress, the fatigue reaches a level which you can't see from an eye, and then you hear those news, unfortunate news, that a soldier in Kashmir picked up his gun and killed his boss and his couple of colleagues and finally killed himself as well. There have been 52 incidents in last 7 years only in Kashmir. My father works in Border Security Force, so I know it firsthand. Now, what we're doing is, with a startup mind, a beautiful innovation, where we created in the cloud platform, which can take real-time data from these Fitbits, do real-time analytics, and send an alert to the right stakeholder, telling them what is the fatigue level or stress level of this person and what can happen in next 1 month, 1 day, 1 week, and you can adjust the timeline. Where do we use it now? We use it with CRPF, Army, police. We use with cab drivers, Olas and Ubers and companies. We use with pilots, Jet Airways and Indian Airlines, because many a times it happens they reach those stress levels because of continuous work, especially in cab cases, when they can't further bear it, and then you hear that the car gets banged and people get killed. So we are now using the power of wearable IoT to get the data, because data is anywhere available, Fitbits are anywhere available. On top of that, putting in artificial intelligence and real-time edge analytics in place so that you can give this back to the right stakeholder, can be a BPO industries manager for BPO employees, telling them, boss, this guy needs rest because he's already reached a stress level. And that's a hard revenue for this startup based out of Bangalore, whom I have been incubating for the last 6 months. Example number one. Example number two from a different industry and very close where we are sitting right now. How many of you do not know, especially people in Pune, do not know a company called Chitle? Very rare people don't know this. I know this. You have Chitle Bandhu, Chitle Dairy. Chitle Dairy is one of the biggest dairies in this country, somewhere around here. And they have 54,000 plus cows, buffaloes spread across the villages where they get the milk and then they create those confectionery items. 2015, they went on a journey of transformation with my company, and we created an IoT-based data analytics in real-time model by putting an application in the cloud and putting RFID sensors, where they are now tracking every aspect of their cows and buffaloes, including their feeding habits, their milk production in real time, their vaccination schedules, so that all of a sudden a cow falls ill and it means hindrance to the business. And the CIO and one of the family members of this dairy company went on record by putting a number saying that this is the saving we have attributed in last 2 years by using the power of IoT and data analytics in real time. And this is happening right now in the mid of us in this city. And you know what we call this concept? We call it cows to cloud. And nothing can actually make a much better statement than use of IoT and digital transformation in a country like India, where on one end we are still a 60% agrarian economy, having cows and buffaloes. On the other side, we are already in the cloud. So cows to cloud gives you a right idea. And what we are now looking forward is another bright minds coming out of colleges like this, who can actually take this to the next level by applying the power of robotics, automation, artificial intelligence, and data analytics in real time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ranveer. It is quite interesting examples you've thrown at two different extremes, right? One at the border and other at the on the field, right? So quite interesting. I would like to have some how IoT is getting impacted, and then how IoT is being leveraged in the network side. Probably if you could, sorry, if you could share your thoughts on how it's impacting on the network side.
Yeah. So I work with Reliance Jio, and as you have seen disruption in telecom industry in last 2 years or so, I'm going to promise you're going to see disruption in IoT industry also soon from us. So be ready for that. But here I would like to just talk about the network architecture basically, the business aspect, the services and application aspects are being discussed by other panelists, but I would like you guys to really understand that how it is technically implemented. That part is also has to be considered because deployment is also very, very crucial when it comes to any services like IoT. So basically we have a perception layer first. We can have a layered architecture of any, for example, you remember from your older, previous studies of engineering, all those OSI 7-layer model of computer communication. Similarly, in IoT, we have divided, there is no hard and fast rule because there is no standardization has come yet. So, but generally, we have perception layer where the information is being collected from sensors, actuators, and then it has to be passed to the cloud for, computing or decision making or something which everybody is discussing. What is in between? So in between is the network, So network perspective, we have two approach depending on the size or, of the network. So as I hope everybody is from networking background or even from general aspect, you understand there are generally two categories. A small size network, which is like PAN, personal area network, or LANs, so be like, for example, you will talk about little bit more distance. So from PAN is several technologies, network technologies are available for PAN connectivity, personal area, short distance connectivity, maybe wearable devices, home automation, and those kind of things. So basically there are several proprietary versions are there, but many standardization has come up. So we talk about mostly these days in the PAN area, we talk about 6 low WPAN is the technology for connecting. So it's 6 stand for IPv6. As I have seen mentioning about the need of IPv6 because of the number of IoT devices to be connected. And IPv6 is going to have 128 bits in its address. So it has been estimated that you will be able to connect almost, not literally, but almost infinite number of devices in next few years. We need not to worry about addresses. So 6 and low power. That another thing is low power. So second requirement is low power because all these devices and transducers and all those things has to be low powered, right? So 6 stand for IPv6, LO stand for low power, W stand for wireless because mostly connectivity is wireless nowadays, and PAN, as you know, personal area network. So there are several standard. One IEEE standard is there, 802.15.4. So this is like several technologies uses these standard for, PAN connectivity, including ZigBee, Z-Wave technology. So these are some 802.15.4 technologies which are used to connect PAN network for IoT services. We do also have other technologies than these standard. For example, your Bluetooth low energy. You know, there is one format, one form of Bluetooth. Earlier we used to call it Bluetooth Smart, but now call it Bluetooth Low Energy. And then you are also familiar with NFC and RF tag, those RFID tags and all those things are there. On the other hand, this is about the short distance. You know, so the PAN connectivity, to be categorized, I can use the term PAN. Then there is another called WAN connectivity. Here also this is the category called long range. So LoRa is the acronym for this, long range connectivity. So we have, in that case, we have several, again, proprietary technologies to connect long distance, you know, kilometers and all those things. But what Jio is working is at using the existing LT network. So in India, I guess this is one of, in the long distance, rather than using proprietary technology, several are there. You can always, there is a list available on Wikipedia and something you can always find out. But the standardizing technology which has come up from 3GP standard of LTE is, first one which Jio has already launched is NB-IoT. That is narrowband IoT. Why narrowband? Because just uses 200 kilohertz of a spectrum. For providing LTE services, basic LTE services, we need megahertz. You know, for example, 20 megahertz, 10 megahertz, 5 megahertz, those kind of spectrum is required for basic LTE services. But this narrowband IoT, which uses LTE, is just 200 kilohertz to provide sufficient amount of data connectivity. Because these devices don't need very high speed, you know, for IoT services. They're like kind of intermittent connectivity is required. It's not like a data transfer, huge amount of data transfer as such. Together, considering the number, it will be more, obviously. So this is one of the option. And second, but this doesn't support mobility. So narrowband IoT is like for, say, something stationary IoT applications. But if you come to mobility, there are another version of LT called LTM. So LTM is like, it's called LT category M1. So M may be mobility, you can say, although it's not documented as such, but it supports like for example, industry like logistics, IoT, and et cetera, and other things, tracking and all those things can be used. So these are some technology in the network side I want you people to understand, because there are interdependence, applications and all those things. So whatever application you're developing, what type of sensors, connectivity is also a very important role playing in the middle of these two extremes.
Thank you, Saurav, for showing, throwing the technology aspects behind the network. We are seeing quite a lot of interesting examples how IoT being leveraged, right? But at the same time, we have challenges as well, right? So I hope you might have received many of you might have received a funny video in the WhatsApp that one person, how easy using his smart home to, do many things. But once he returns from the, dental clinic, right, the smart home is not responding the way he's expecting, right? So we are living in a world where our opportunities as well as challenges. So I would request Ashish to share some, pointers and thoughts on what are the kind of challenges, and not only from a technology perspective, but also from a regulatory perspective and then growth perspective. Yeah.
Thanks, Philip, for bringing up a smart home example. So let me take my example from home only and run how the complexity is spread on IoT. So if we take a smart refrigerator, how it starts, right from refrigerator basic internal control and communication technology, which is the actual operation technology part. Because IoT is all about how IT and OT convergence happens. How operation technology can be interconnected and we get final results. So refrigerator technology is one, and then comes the device which picks up that data and do two-way communication. So it not only picks up data, it should be able to do certain controls, like if you want to do a smart refrigerator temperature control based on multiple parameters. Now that intelligence may be sitting somewhere else. So that two-way communication devices is one. Now devices, if we talk about, while Venki was talking about the devices, there was one number which we discussed up till 2020. But another number which is there, by 2025, 3 trillion devices will be there. And the variety of devices will be 100 million plus type. So that's one type of complicacy which is there. And manufacturers are again million plus, small, medium, large. There is another complicacy which is associated with these devices. They need to communicate to various technologies on both the sides from a protocol perspective. There are some 500 plus protocols which exist. On a platform side, most of our platforms which are available in market, they typically cover 10, 15, 20 protocols only. Rest all is left to these devices and maybe edge convergence gateways to interpret and then transmit in a right set of protocol. And that goes to whether Azure or AWS or any standard cloud-based or the on-prem platform you talk about, they will look at all this happening on edge. So edge becomes another important aspect. Understanding of these protocols, making a useful data out of it, which can be further analyzed, and then taking those analytics-based commands for automation perspective, and then finally applying it. You go further up, network, Saurabh anyway discussed in length, so I'll not spend time on. So that's the actual connectivity part. Then comes cloud, where whole of cloud infrastructure come in picture, or data center infrastructure come in picture. But as soon as we reach there, application becomes another challenge. And platform doesn't solve everything. So while we have 1,000 plus platform available globally, which are known, there will be many other people who may be holding some smaller platforms beyond this. But still, they don't cover everything. There are platforms which cover few layers because data acquisition to analytics, to AI, one single platform may not be doing. Some have modular approach, some don't even have those modules available. So platforms need to interconnect further to actually make out the real benefit. Stories still doesn't end there. Another complexity which comes in picture is there is an enterprise application integration which is required. Because in isolation you may not talk about. So if we take fridge, device, connectivity, then cloud to get data. And if we take milk status as an example, if you feed that 1 liter milk has to be maintained, as soon as it becomes half a liter, it sends a signal through cloud to a platform, to an application, which is maybe a web-based application, which again connects to the provider application, gives them an instruction that this need to be delivered at so-and-so location. So location services and GIS map come in picture. Logistics come in picture to deliver it if it is not within the vicinity with which person can deliver himself. But another aspect coming from an enterprise application perspective, payment. Now those payment gateways, Visa and your cards, that's another aspect. You go to industrial or the enterprise IoT, ERP and CRM, all that need to be integrated. So there are so many layers which are much more complex than the standard IT or telecom or other space we are using. Because IoT encompasses all of them. It is interconnection of so many technologies, so many systems. So that's the technology complexity. Second is, there is a issue in terms of people for adoption. Typical OT players, and if you go to industrial and we say that adoption is high, but still it is very low. Looking at the kind of benefits we can get in IoT, industrial adoption is also very low. And reason is that those traditional technology-based operational people, they are not so ready, so prepared to accept it. Same is the issue what we had in 90s in IT, right? Adoption was a big issue. Now we have come a long way. IT has become part of life. When we buy a smartphone, we don't look at ROI. We look at many other factors. But when we buy an IoT solution, we want ROI to come in. Now, there are most of the solutions from an industrial IoT perspective or enterprise IoT perspective which will have decent ROI, as Ravinder spoke about. But consumer IoT has to come a long way. Despite startups doing so much, actual value will be realized by us, and then it will come above the ROI aspect. Then actually adoption will happen. And those values are the areas where startups need to work further. How do they make those values more visible? The way Samsung or iPhone makes their smartphone values visible. Can we make those IoT values visible? Health reader is one of the things. That's again IoT, and people see value out of it. You don't see the ROI from that. That if I am able to predict the pulse and that saves my life, what is ROI? So much of earning which I could have done in 15 years of service left, that's a return? Maybe. Yeah. But we don't think that way. Another issue is standardization. Now, IoT is not having sufficient standardization, and that has already been spoken to some extent. There is no single body which is driving it, despite having Industrial Internet Consortium and so many other consortiums in place. There are people who are working in this direction, including forums in India. Like IoT standardization in Smart City, me and Ravinder are part of another program run by MOUD. Similarly, there are multiple programs running, but this all is a long way still. Till that time, another complication is what technology you are adopting, whether it is successful or not. Reality is that out of the pilots, 100 pilots done in IoT, 40 are technology failures. 30 may be a technology failure, but are never taken to project because of multiple other reasons. ROI can be one, investment can be another, other value creation is third. And for balance 30 which are taken to project, actual rollout and mass adoption happens only on 10%. This standardization, guidelines, and all other aspects can change this scenario big time. Technology failures can be avoided. People will choose POCs on merits, and possibility of that 30% which they don't adopt because of investment and other factors can also come down. Cost of solution anyway is coming down with time, because number of players, the kind of players which are coming in. Can you, do you know that how many startups are there in IoT space globally? One figure we had from Jayant on registered startups for IoT in India with the IoT consortium. India IoT Forum. What is the total number? It's a 1 million plus. And this figure is growing every day. These are the people who need to contribute significantly, and then under a larger umbrella framework of standardization.
Yeah. Thank you, Ishwish, for pointing out some of the challenges we are seeing. See, there are other significant serious matters also to be looked at when we talk about IoT, right? If anybody is interested in, having a negative interest on my health, think about if I'm having a pacemaker, right, which is a different form of an IoT device, right? Somebody can get access to my pacemaker control system, and he can have the decision on my life, right? So there are serious aspects. There are hundreds of examples I can quote about how IoT security is getting more important. And I would like to have Shyam to share some thoughts on how security is going to be more important in the world of IoT era.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. I think our time is up. Do we still want to do this?
Probably you can share a couple of thoughts in that area, and then we can conclude.
Because I'm not a good fan to speak a lot. Because when I was a student, we had a physics professor. He comes 5 minutes late and goes 5 minutes early. I really liked him. I actually scored very well. Right. So you guys are all very smart. So probably we don't need to speak much, but I will share a couple of jokes. Yeah? Right. Um, so first to start with, let's understand, I'm not going to talk much technology, but let's understand how the security works in the connected world, right? So the way security works is that we encrypt things such a way that it is computationally difficult for hackers to decode. That's how it works, that's it. So what it means is that if I have lots of computing power with me, the hacker will never be able to decode or enter into my system. Yeah? That's how the security works. So the IoT devices are small devices. In the technical terms, we call them constrained devices. They are constrained by the processing power they have, the battery power they have, and the amount of bandwidth that they have. So when we are going to place this device over the internet, and the other side of the internet, there are hackers with big computers or even supercomputers. There is no way that we can secure the IoT device over the internet. Yeah? Because the only way that we can secure the Internet of Things is to beef up their computing power. As like instead of a sensor, you put a supercomputer there. Right? There is no other way. So I was thinking, how do we solve this problem? And then suddenly I got an idea, how I used to fight in my school days with the stronger guys. Have you ever fought with a strong guy? Yeah? What did you do? If you had to fight with a strong guy, you were a big guy. You give up or you fight? So what I used to do is that you take your friend. Yeah? To fight with, there is no other way. I will be a dumb guy not to fight with a strong guy. Right? I cannot win. So sometimes we say, okay, not here, come to my place, we'll fight. So I found that this is very interesting thing. And using this analogy, how humans have evolved, so we came up with a proposal to secure the Internet of Things. Instead of fighting at the battle at the device, we will fight at one level up. We call it security by indirection. So this is a new standard that we are working on called IEEE P1931. Yeah? So I'll be glad, if you guys want to look at that, I'll share the more information later on. So what I want to say is that if you can apply the common sense, you can solve complex problems that cannot be solved by whatever, using technology and all those things. Yeah? So I named this IEEE P1931 as the roof computing. Right? So what happened is that sometime in 2014, for me, this cloud computing, the most abused phrase in the technology world. Right? Even you run a website in AWS, they will say they are doing cloud computing. Right? So I being in the networking and communication all along, right? Cloud computing is something we have already been doing from a long time ago. Then suddenly in 2014, somebody said they want to do a fog computing. Why? Because there are clouds, they are doing cloud computing, and below the cloud there is a fog, so they want to do fog computing. Then I was thinking, what is there below the fog, and I want to do that computing. Right? And one day, my cable dish TV was not working, and I went to my apartment complex up to check what's going on. I suddenly found that we have the roofs below the fog. And I came down and I wrote a mail to IEEE saying that there are clouds, they are doing cloud computing, and there is a fog, they are doing fog computing, and now we have roofs, I want to do the roof computing. You know what? They accepted it. They said we will do it. Right? So this is the standard we are driving from India for the Internet of Things. I'll be happy to share more information during our lunch or later on. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, Shyam, for making it more alive. So I think we had an excellent session here. We have seen IoT from different aspects. Probably if I can take away 5 pointers from the different discussions we had here. Yes, IoT is growing. Obviously, we are seeing the fascinating numbers out there. But at the same time, we have seen how we can derive value out of the IoT using analytics, advanced analytics, machine learning, cognitive technologies, blockchain, etc. And we also see some challenges in terms of standardization, how do we make it more relevant? Obviously, you have seen examples how we can really monetize it, right? So a different aspect. Now coming back to the one most important aspect, how do we really secure our IoT environment to become a smarter universe, right? So these are some of the 5 key takeaways, and I would like to add my one of other pointers which you may be of interest to. One of the statistics I shared in the beginning, right? There are about only 0.5% of the data which is coming here today is being analyzed. Because end of the day, IoT is a mean to really get data for some actionable insight, right, which can make it smarter. So what happens to the 99.5% of the data, right? And how do we really manage the data through IoT, through blockchain, through analytics, through AI, right? And that's an opportunity for you waiting out there, right, in multiple format. You can be an IoT engineer, you can be a cloud specialist, you can be a blockchain specialist. And if you don't do this data properly managed, right, so you know what is the loss? $3.1 trillion by 2020 is going to be the loss if you don't do this, if you don't manage this data properly, right, which is equivalent to the GDP of Germany, right? And about 2.5 lakh data scientists to manage this problem is required to be addressed in US alone, right? And if you look at the world, there are about 1.5 million data scientists required to really manage this problem. And that's the opportunity awaiting for all of you. And I wish a great success and career for each one of you, and also the entrepreneurship spirited people can really venture into opportunities to really tap in these opportunities. And I take this opportunity to thank each one of the panelists for your valuable insights, I think which really give some enriched insights for the audience here. And once again, thank you, Symbiosis, for having us here, and then fantastic opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear panelists, for such an insightful discussion. I now invite my colleagues to felicitate our esteemed dignitaries with mementos as a gesture of our gratitude and appreciation. We thank our panel members for joining us and would now request them to kindly occupy the seats in the audience.